The day she asked me out, I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because life had a strange way of testing people when they least expected it. We had known each other for nearly 15 years. She had always been my best friend's little sister, the quiet girl who watched from the porch while her brother and I dreamed about our futures. Then one sunny afternoon, standing on the front steps of her family's old farmhouse, she looked into my eyes and asked a question that changed everything. I smiled, took a slow breath, and answered with the only words my heart believed. Love always starts from the heart. Before we continue this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who still believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Journey of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories that remind the world that love and compassion still exist. My name is Rowan Mercer, and for most of my life, I believed love wasn't meant for people like me. I wasn't rich, handsome in any extraordinary way, or successful by society's standards. I repaired old furniture in a small woodworking shop on the edge of our town. Every chair I restored, every table I sanded, reminded me that broken things could become beautiful again. Maybe that was why I loved my work so much. Somewhere deep inside, I hoped people could be restored the same way. My best friend, Nolan Pierce, had been beside me since elementary school. We had survived scraped knees, school failures, first heartbreaks, and countless adventures together. His family practically adopted me after my parents passed away in a highway accident when I was 19. Their house became my second home, and his younger sister, Maris Pierce, slowly became someone I quietly admired from a respectful distance. Back then, Maris was only a teenager with endless curiosity and an innocent smile. She loved sketching wildflowers, reading novels on the porch swing, and helping her mother bake cinnamon bread every Sunday morning. I never imagined the shy little girl would one day become a confident, compassionate woman whose kindness could light up an entire room. Years passed. Life pulled Nolan away to another state after he joined an engineering company. We still talked every week, but visits became rare. Meanwhile, Maris stayed behind, becoming a pediatric nurse at the local hospital. She spent her days comforting frightened children and exhausted parents, often returning home emotionally drained but never complaining. Our paths crossed more often than either of us expected. Sometimes she'd stop by my workshop carrying coffee. Other times she'd ask me to repair an old rocking chair from the children's ward because she believed familiar furniture helped sick kids feel less afraid. Watching her care so deeply for complete strangers slowly changed something inside me. Still, I never crossed the invisible line between friendship and something more. She deserved someone extraordinary, someone with a bigger future than a man who spent his days covered in sawdust. One autumn morning, everything changed. Maris arrived at my workshop carrying a broken wooden music box. It belonged to an elderly patient who had recently passed away. The man's granddaughter wanted it repaired before his memorial service. As I carefully opened the tiny mechanism, Maris watched quietly. The melody eventually played again, soft and beautiful, filling the workshop with a gentle tune. When I looked up, tears were rolling down her cheeks. She whispered that kindness wasn't always about saving lives. Sometimes it meant preserving memories. Those words stayed with me long after she left. From that day forward, our friendship grew.
Naturally, we visited local farmers markets, volunteered at community food drives, planted flowers outside the senior center, and spent evenings talking about dreams neither of us had ever spoken aloud. She confessed she sometimes felt invisible because everyone expected her to always be strong. I admitted I constantly felt I wasn't enough. Neither of us judged the other. Instead, we simply listened. One rainy afternoon, a violent storm flooded several neighborhoods nearby. Without hesitation, Maris spent 36 straight hours helping displaced families at the emergency shelter. I joined volunteers repairing damaged homes. Late that evening, after delivering blankets together, we sat outside beneath the shelter's porch roof, watching the rain finally slow. She leaned back with exhausted eyes and smiled. In that moment, I realized strength didn't always roar. Sometimes strength quietly held another person's hand while pretending everything would be okay. Over the next several months, people around town began teasing us. They insisted we already acted like a couple. We laughed it off. Neither of us wanted to ruin something so precious by rushing into labels. Then came the hardest season of all. My woodworking business nearly collapsed. A large furniture supplier cancelled its contract without warning, leaving me buried beneath unpaid bills. For weeks I barely slept. I secretly considered selling my tools and closing the shop forever. I told almost no one. But somehow Maris noticed. She didn't ask uncomfortable questions. Instead, she started bringing lunch every afternoon. Sometimes she'd simply sit quietly while I worked. Her presence alone reminded me I wasn't facing the storm alone. One weekend she organized a charity craft fair for local artisans. Without telling me, she convinced dozens of neighbors to attend. Every handcrafted table, bookshelf, and rocking chair I'd spent months building sold within hours. I stood there speechless. It wasn't just the money. It was knowing someone believed in me enough to fight for my dream when I had almost given up on it myself. That night, driving home beneath a sky painted with orange sunset clouds, I finally understood something. Real love doesn't arrive wearing grand gestures. It quietly appears carrying coffee, fixing broken music boxes, believing in your dreams, and standing beside you when the world feels unbearably heavy. Several weeks later, Nolan returned to town for a family reunion. I nervously wondered if he'd notice how much had changed between Maris and me. Instead, he surprised both of us. During dinner he smiled knowingly and admitted he'd seen it coming years ago. He said every phone call eventually included my name. Every family story somehow circled back to something Maris and I had done together. He wasn't angry. He was grateful. He trusted me. That blessing lifted a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The following Saturday was warm and bright. Sunlight spilled across the Pierce family's front porch while birds sang from nearby maple trees. Maris asked if I'd stop by because she needed help moving an old bookshelf. When I arrived, the bookshelf had already been moved. Instead, she stood waiting with nervous hands folded together. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked unsure of herself. She smiled softly. Her cheeks turned pink. Then she asked the question I'd never expected to hear. She asked if I'd like to go out with her. Time seemed to stop. Every memory flashed through my mind. The little girl drawing flowers. The young nurse comforting frightened children. The woman who saved my business without asking for recognition. I looked into her hopeful eyes and smiled. Then I answered with complete honesty. Love always starts from the heart. Not from appearance. Not from money. Not from perfect timing. From the heart. She laughed through happy tears. I reached for her hand. For the first time, it didn't feel like crossing a line. It felt like finally coming home. Our first official date wasn't expensive. We packed sandwiches, visited a quiet lakeside park, and spent hours talking about everything we'd already known but had never dared to say aloud. She admitted she'd admired me for years because I treated everyone with respect regardless of who they were. I confessed I'd fallen in love with her kindness long before I realized it. Months became seasons. Seasons became years. Together we continued serving our community, repairing homes after storms, organizing charity drives, and creating wooden toys for children in hospitals. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We still argued. We still misunderstood each other sometimes. But every disagreement ended with honesty instead of pride. Every challenge reminded us why we chose each other. One evening while restoring an antique dining table, I noticed countless scratches hidden beneath decades of worn finish. Each mark told a story. Instead of replacing the wood, I carefully restored it while preserving its history. Maris smiled when she saw the finished piece. She said people were exactly the same. Our scars weren't signs of weakness. They were proof we'd survived. Years later, standing together outside the very same farmhouse where everything began, I asked her a question of my own. There was no expensive restaurant. No crowd. No dramatic performance. Only golden afternoon sunlight, birds singing nearby, and two hearts that had quietly loved each other for years. She said yes before I even finished asking. At our wedding, Nolan stood proudly beside me. During his speech, he laughed as he reminded everyone that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with lifelong friendships and patient hearts. Looking across the room at Maris, I realized he was right. Some people search their entire lives for extraordinary love. We found ours by simply choosing kindness every single day. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Journey of Kindness. Every interaction helps these stories reach people who may need a reminder that genuine love still exists. Sparkling Heart special request: before this story ends, comment below with the words, "Love always starts from the heart," if you believe true love is built on kindness, respect, and unwavering support. Love is rarely loud. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks, luxury, or perfect timing. Sometimes it quietly grows through years of friendship, shared struggles, silent sacrifices, and unwavering belief in another person's worth. The strongest relationships aren't built by perfect people. They're built by imperfect hearts that choose each other every single day. And if there's one lesson my journey taught me, it's this: when love begins in the heart, it has the strength to endure every storm, heal every wound, and turn ordinary lives into unforgettable stories.